Okay, I'm rolling. What am I talking about? Throughout my time listening to rap music, I've kind of realized there's a lot of things, or just like a lot of music that uh, I liked when I was younger, and wanting to listen to like the new stuff from those artists, and I'm like, man, this shit's trash. uh, I get really upset thinking about like people who like progressively get worse as time goes on, and it's like I kind of wish you like stopped making music. A lot of people tend to think of like Eminem, and I guess for some people that's Drake. A lot of people really like Drake, and I always thought that um, for me, the thing that really had a chokehold on me when I was growing up was this rapper. His name was Josh A. Um, Josh was he was something. I think I really only got into him in like 2015 because of it was because of the song "No Chill" that he did with Mr. T Lexify, and I was really in my EDM bag back then. So I was like, "Oh yeah, Josh A. I really like this music. He did like stuff like the song called like Hogwarts, and I was like, man, this is like the peak." And listening back to some of that now, and it's like, wow, that stuff's kind of cringe. But it's not about his EDM stuff. It's about his rap stuff. I had gotten into his stuff when he was doing the Flow Awakens, which is that album that he has where he's up there. He's like falling. He's falling from space. It's a big breakup album, so he's feeling like kind of upset. Um, and what happened? And then he dropped the Blessed EP. The Blessed EP, man, that shit is crazy. I kind of want to just like go through like a song. Let me just like pull up his Spotify just so I know like I can just have it up there because I'm like, man, some of these songs, I was like, I was so fully invested in like anything he had to say. But like fucking no Shima, man, because he used to make a bunch of stuff where it's all like zombies related since like his like fandom came from like zombies adjacent stuff. So when Black Ops 3 came out, that was like all of the hype. So god, this song was so crazy for me. Um but I was lit like this was 2016 and he dropped his first like actual big album. It's called Blessed, but that was really more like a compilation like thing. So like a bunch of old singles, some new stuff. It was fine, um, but there was like a point in time where he was like dropping like an album like at least it was like every 2 to 3 months, and Logic. Logic used to drop like at least it was like twice every year around that time too. So it was like that I was fully in my white boy rapper my rapper bag, and that shit was crazy. There's a few albums on here that I still think hold up really well. Like I really like Retroland he dropped like right after Blessed, and that one's smaller. Blessed 2, which is the sequel, that one's really good. uh Blessed 3 is like okay, it's good, but it could be so much better. And then he started doing like he met this one rapper, Jake Hill, and those they were like that was like the Red Man and Method Man of like the zombies community at the time, right? Because I think around this time they had like fucking they had Fortnite was coming out, so people were really big on Fortnite, so they were doing like, oh, let's do some Fortnite tracks, let's do this, let's do that, and like they were like fully, if I can like pinpoint it, it's like they were in their bag like right here, like 2017 up to like 2019 ish. They're like right here. But around this time, when he started doing the collaborations with Jake, because Jake's music is very different from Josh's. Josh was like very like if you can pinpoint it, it's like very like backpack rap. So um, when he was messing around with Jake, his style kind of changed, and I wasn't fully opposed to it when I was listening to it. I remember I thought it was fine. I think there was like a turning point where I was like, um, yeah, these things aren't as good as I once thought. But I really think the biggest turning point was when I was in high school. Um, Back then, I was so into like Josh A like music. I was a moderator of like a Josh A like Discord, and I think I was also a moderator of the Reddit. I might still be a moderator of the Reddit, but I don't use that shit anymore, so I don't know. But I do have very fond memories of like just being there and seeing like the fandom grow, and seeing like other people who were like rappers being like, yeah, Josh A like heavily inspired me, and I wanted to make like a bunch more like music and stuff. You know, some of them were good, some of them were bad. Um, Shouts out to the PA boys if anyone recognizes those names by chance. Um, but the big turning point for me was when I was in high school, and Chaos had just came out, and this album is something. I remember I like suggested. I was like, I was always getting made fun of for my taste in like rap, and looking back at it, like listening to Chaos, I was this is like the turning point. I was like, oh, these are starting to become like ass, because someone was like, I gave Chaos to someone else. They were like, yeah, uh, so, and then I listened back to it again, like maybe a few months, and there was a point where I was just like, yeah, Chaos is just like a really bad album. It was like probably like the worst one, and it made me like kind of reflect on a lot of their collaborations in general. Like I went back and I was like, oh, you know, Better Off Dead, which is their first collaboration album. Just like, oh, that's not really all that good either. But um, they have like two really good ones, and that's Better Off Dead 2, which doesn't like the whole gimmick with the Better Off Dead like albums were like they're kind of like Halloween albums, so they would come out like around like October and stuff. Um, and so they did it for like 3 years, and Better Off Dead 2 doesn't sound like a Halloween album at all. It's kind of crazy, and I think that's what made it stand out the most out of all of them, to be honest. Given that it's like so different. Like Flexorcist was probably like one of my favorite songs in the entire thing, because it's like straight boom bap, and it's so weird because like Jake Hill isn't like a boom bap like type person. So you coming in and he's spinning, he's going left and right, he's trading bars with Josh, and that shit was like so good for me. It was truly my white boy music era. Um, and then he dropped Retroland 2 after that, which was a turning point for Josh because he didn't produce, I don't think he produced a single song on Retroland 2, which was kind of a big deal because the thing is with Josh is that he would self produce like almost all of his other songs. So having it be like completely different, and I think it's probably the best record he put out at like supposed. It doesn't get any better after 2018. Um, it's like Retroland 2, and then everything else is like kind of downhill. And then they do one more collab album, well, besides Better Off Dead 3, called Save Our Souls, and that was like the biggest shift in Josh's like music sonically. He was really going in. I had to think about what came out at the time and stuff like, well, Peep had died. X I think also died. Um, but we had people like Trippy Red. It was really the sad boy era of hip hop. So he had like EXO Tour Life and that shit coming out around that time. So it was really about emo boys and how they feel sad, and that's where his music went. And it's like It's okay. I think it's one of their better collaboration projects. I still think Better Off 2 is the best one, but Save Our Souls is like right there afterwards. Um, and then he dropped Disgrace, and I remember listening to Disgrace for the first time because I still really liked like Blessed 2 and Retroland and all that stuff back then. So having to go and listen to one of the older ones or one of the newer ones where like he's kind of detached from all that. He doesn't really want to do that stuff anymore. And you can very clearly see it. And I didn't really like it all that much. There was like a few songs that really stepped out. I remember people when I was in the fandom at the time, people were really excited about Suicide Bins because it was a song, and it was kind of like the first song where Josh ever like does like a rock switch, and everyone was like, "God, this song is so fucking good," and I was like, it's kind of okay." Uh, I think this is also when Josh got a Quadeca feature, so that was a big deal for him too. But he had like a real bad problem with like attaching singles to the end of his albums, and that got like it kind of got in the way of some of the track listing. Like, people do deluxe albums now, but like some of these like could have really been like a separate deluxe. Like for instance, Disgrace, it has like a really good 9 track run, but and then it should end with January Never Ends, which is like a song that really sounds like an outro, and then it plays all four of the singles right after that, and it doesn't really like they feel very detached, and they don't really sound all that cool. Um, and when I look back at Josh's discography now, it makes me wonder if the reason why I stopped liking Josh's music wasn't less that he was getting worse, but I'll get to that later. Um, but it was the fact that I was just growing up and I was just getting out of that like style of rap, and it wasn't really my thing anymore. And I think there's some validity to that statement, but it's strange though because I can still go back to some of these older projects and still have a really good time listening to them, like even if they are cringe. But that could be just a sense of nostalgia for me. Ooh. Mm. I could just be a sense of heavy nostalgia for me, so I'm not quite like fully sure if that's the case. Uh, but I do remember it was like after 2019, it was just no, it's just it's all garbage. It's all garbage. It's terrible. It was like so much happened in like around that COVID era where his music just started getting like dramatically worse, and it was really hard to defend his music to the point where like I stopped listening to Josh A almost altogether. No Josh A, no Jake Hill, and it was kind of rough because I feel like both of them were going through a lot of changes musically, and I just wasn't here for that shit. I just did not want to hear it because I thought it was bad. I could not I couldn't do it. And it's really funny to like I occasionally will like dip into the Reddit around that time and then like see people like the fans are like really trying their best to be like, I think this is a good album, and everyone's like, no, it's fucking trash. It's fucking trash. No, and everyone's like, okay. So there's that constant back and forth, which wasn't as strong in like 2019 and before. So I definitely think something might have happened. And I personally like to blame NF. I hate NF. NF sucks. I remember back in middle school, because I went to a Christian school around that time, and this is when NF was like deemed as like a Christian rapper. So people would be trying to they were like, yeah, you should listen to NF, you should listen to Lecrae. And Lecrae's cool. Lecrae's pretty cool. I think I should have one of his albums like still lying around. I still like take care of that thing. I got that as a Christmas present. That was pretty good. Um, but NF though, I thought NF was so boring. I could not get with NF. I thought it was boring, corny, and lame, which is crazy because I was listening to Josh A around this time, and this was like 2016, 20 like 17 Josh, and like he's still on this backpacker rap shit, and like NF is on his like weird like Christian bag, and I don't like that at all. So I never really liked NF, and then he kind of showed back up like randomly. Like I remember the Apex Legends season 3. The trailer for that had the search on it, and the search, everyone loved the search, and I'm like. I thought the search was cool for a while, and then I kind of realized the more that I listened to it that I fucking hate this song. This song sucks. Um, so um, it's very telling that like Josh was really into like NF around like the 2020 era because a lot of his beats started sounding like really orchestral and just like the search or like the messaging of his music would get like really like deep but not really all that deep and just like NF, and I was like, man, this shit sucks. He dropped 4 albums in the span of like 4 years, which is definitely like a heavy decrease compared to like the every 3 month rollout that he was doing. And somehow, even with taking the break, his music only got worse. So like, you're not alone. I didn't like that one. Lonely Vibes. I fucking hated Lonely Vibes. Lonely Vibes Deluxe album. We're not even gonna touch that. Fearless 2. I don't even know why he did that. Oh, actually, I know exactly why he did that. It's because everyone kept calling his new music garbage, and he was like, all right, fine. It's garbage. Here, we're gonna like. This is kind of like like a fu to the haters who keep saying my music is bad, but it's just bad. It's so rough. I don't know what he has going on in his life, but like whatever happened, like had like some sort of like creative bankruptcy where like his music just got like dramatically worse. And he doesn't even hit 1 million streams anymore on his albums, which is kind of rough. I can only feel so bad because his music, it's like, you know, I wish he were still good, man. Every so when I hear an album released, I'll like check out a few songs to see if it ever changes, but it's like no. It's kind of the same way I feel about like Eminem or like Modern Logic. Like, it's like, yeah, I miss when Logic was like good. So I'll occasionally like listen to like a new album and be like, oh, is it like kind of like old Logic again? And sometimes it is, sometimes. And then there'll be a point where it's like, oh no, this is like still mostly like ass. So it's like, what do you do? Um, all this to say, um, I really liked old Josh A. I was a really big fan. Um, I've kind of I don't think I'll ever reach that point, or he'll ever reach that point rather, where he'll start making like that old music again. I think that ship has like a long has been long gone, but I think that's okay. I like to remember people for what they were as opposed to what they are now, and sometimes that does leave me kind of better off. Um, I do. I still do really enjoy stuff like Retroland 2 and Bless 2, and I probably wouldn't mind talking about it a bit more, going a bit more into depth. But I kind of just like sat down and started talking. I didn't really have like a big script in mind. I didn't even have a script. I was just like, I'm going to talk about Josh A. I miss the old Josh A. But it's very clear like that old Josh isn't coming back. And that's fine. Um, I don't know what Jake Hill is doing now. I think the last time I heard stuff that he had going on, he was doing like a gay cowboy shtick, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess, good for him. I think so. Um, uh, yeah, Chaos is pretty ass, very ass. Don't forget that Chaos. It all went downhill at Chaos. Terrible album, fucking garbage.